Hi there, welcome to the Mind to Risk video blog. How about busting some safety myths? I would suggest we start with causes, because the other day I got a picture from my friend Martijn in the Netherlands, and he sent me a picture he took while he was attending a workshop, and I think it's a great way to start busting some myths. Here's the picture, just look what it looks like. So, what is it what we see? The picture is the result of some so-called research done amongst safety professionals, and the results, or the so-called results, show the relative import of these three factors on origin of accidents. And according to this research, if we can call it, it's 24% technical failures, it's 15% rules, and 61% behavior. And those are the factors that influence accidents. And I get really frustrated about pictures like this. And also I'm very disappointed about the level of professionalism and knowledge within our profession, safety profession. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book on safety myths. And I don't want to talk today about how dated this kind of thinking is. And I'm not going to do a deep discussion of causes either. And I'm not going to talk about the research design. I'm not going to talk about the categories, however bad they may be. But I want to talk to you about what these people are trying to count and measure, and how foolish that is. Because I want you to remember two things today. The first is causes are constructs. The second is, because they are constructs, it's totally meaningless to count them and gather them in statistics and present them like they mean something. Let's look a bit into more detail. Okay, so causes are constructs, but what are constructs then? Constructs that are products of our mind. We use them to explain something and to make sense of something. And they're super useful, really. But they're not real things. Causes are just imaginary things. They don't exist outside of our minds. You cannot go outside and find a cause in the real world. And it's really interesting because when I was trained as an incident investigator many years ago, and probably many of you who had some investigation training, I was told you go and you try to find causes, try to find them. But it's impossible. You can't go outside in the real world and find causes because they don't exist. We make them up. We make an observation, and from that observation we decide what we call a cause. Like, I have a piece of paper here, some great research. This one, I make a ball, I have a ball, I let go, it falls. So, what caused the ball to fall to the ground? Most of us will say, I open my hand and I let go. We observe something, we decide that might be the cause of an effect we saw, and we choose the cause. We choose an act or a condition. It isn't there in the real world, we decide what it is. We make up the cause. Let's look at another example, one you've probably known from before. Here's a picture of Pompeii, the ancient Roman town, a place of great legendary Pink Floyd concert 40 years ago or something. But 2000 years ago, Pompeii was a really prospering city in southern part of Italy. And then one day it wasn't. And what caused this to happen? Real disaster. Most of us will say, well, that's the volcano in the back there that erupted, covered the city, a lot of lava, many people died. Great disaster. On the other hand, we might say, there's a lot of volcanoes over the world erupting without consequences like these. So maybe the volcano erupting alone wasn't enough for the disaster. Was it maybe the decision of people to go and live there? Which afterwards we can criticize, but at the time it made probably great sense because fertile soil and so on. So what caused the disaster then? And what cause was the most important? Because remember the research we saw what factors are most important for accidents to exist. Why did Pompeii disappear from the face of the earth for many hundred years? Was it the eruption? Was it the people who decided to live there? Was it both? We choose what story to tell. We construct the story. So we construct causes. Causes are constructs. And it's the same with the ball of paper. Does it fall because I open my hand and let go? Something you could observe. Or is it because of gravity? Something that is completely invisible for you, but you know it's there. Or was it just because I had to make up some silly example to show you? Is that the real cause? What's the most important? Can you decide? You probably can, but it's you who chose. It's not there in the real world. And that brings us to learning point number 2. Constructs are things you shouldn't count and try to present as facts, as things you can measure. Because you can just make them up, decide how to count them, you can end on any number you want. And you can compare them to your neighbor and his counting, but it probably doesn't give meaning. So we are unable to compare them without known about people's perception. And whenever people present you with causes and numbers, and a lot of safety people do, be very skeptical, because most likely they're complete nonsense. They don't say so much about the situation, about accidents. They say a lot about the people who made we came up with the numbers, who decided how to count them. And what's the problem with that, you may think? Well, there's one big problem, of course, and that is numbers like these, like the pie chart in the start, where we saw there was 61% of causes causing accidents that may misdirect your actions. If you see a pie chart like this, you may think, well, it's behavior you have to work with. And I really have my doubts about that. But that's a story for another time, another myth, or another couple of myths. For now, stay critical. Think about the stuff you hear. And if you want to read some more about counting causes, Myth 100 in my book, it's a great way to start. Enjoy.